What is good, everybody? Welcome back into the Bluebloods, continuing our player spotlight for some of the top players at the FCS level. Going into the 2023 season, we're joined by Samford quarterback Michael Hiers, was a Walter Payton Award finalist, SoCon Offensive Player of the Year last season, was an FCS All-American, first team also SoCon. And I don't know if you know this, Michael. I was looking at the record book before this interview. You actually have the highest completion percentage in a single season in FCS history.
I was aware of that about at the end of the season. Coach Hatcher is harps on completion percentage, so he threw that out there at me. But wasn't focusing on it during the season. But I appreciate it, man. I'm excited to be on.
Hey, I definitely appreciate that. And let's go back and start your journey, man. You start out at Murray State. You transfer over to Northwest Mississippi Community College at the JUCO level. And I think the Last Chance U series on Netflix really shined a light on some of the struggles you guys go through in terms of some guys have academic stuff. The living conditions, aren't 5 stars and you're away from your family. There's not a lot to do in a lot of these cities. Looking back, how did your JUCO experience shape you in your career? Looking back now with hindsight,
Man, my JUCO experience was awesome. So as you said, a bunch. You see Last Chance U, and you see them living in dorms, kind of in the middle of nowhere. I was very fortunate at Northwest. I actually got to live in an apartment. We had like really nice facilities. Right by San Antonio is where Northwest was, and it was like right by Ole Miss, and then Memphis is about 20 minutes north of it. So I got blessed with having going to a JUCO where there's a bunch to do, but man, it's a grind. It's cool because you're trying to balance the aspect of being on a team, but also worrying about your individual success because, the goal of JUCO is not to stay in JUCO. Obviously, you're trying to get out and, go to the best program possible. So, I do think though in JUCO, you play with guys who really love the game of football, which is cool, and coaches too, because you don't have nearly as many coaches as you do at like a D1 level or, just really anything like that.
I think that's a common theme. All the JUCO guys that I've had on the show said that you have to love football to go through
Oh
that
yeah.
experience. Like you have to want to make it. Well, you go from there. You commit to Samford. You played Alabama. I mean, you played in the area at the high school level. Was that really the selling point? Is coming back to the state, playing closer to home, and was Samford a program you were looking at coming out of high school?
Yeah, so out of high school, I had plans of playing baseball and football at Samford. But, they had – Coach Hatcher said this multiple times. They had a couple really good quarterbacks, Devlin Hodges, Chris Oladoka, Liam Welch. And so they didn't really need a quarterback. So they offered me to walk on, and so I ended up going to Murray State. But it was definitely coming back to, like, home in Birmingham where I got a bunch of friends and family – definitely was a key aspect of my decision, but also just, I have a bunch of friends on the team before and Coach Hatcher. I mean, you look what he's done with all his quarterbacks. I mean, he's phenomenal, head coach and just offensively. He's brilliant. So that was definitely another big part of that decision.
I mean, his experience. Anytime you win the D2 Heisman and you've had a run of quarterbacks. I mean, Chris Oladuncan, was a backup for the Super Bowl champion
Right.
behind Patrick Mahomes. So he's done it at the highest level. And Devlin Hodges has multiple records that still stand
Right.
across the SoCon and FCS. But coming into this season, let's just be honest. There was almost nobody picking you guys to win that first game of the year. That Thursday night game, Kennesaw State comes in, all the hype in the world. You go off, throw 4 touchdowns to kick off the season, and everyone said, "Okay, what is going on here? Who is Michael Hiers? Where is Samford coming from?" Because I talked to Coach Hatcher at SoCon Media Day, and he was honest with me. He said, "We lost a lot. Not a lot of people know what to expect, but I'm confident in this team." And you really broke out. When did you know this team was going to be special?
Man, I mean, just when I first got here, everyone's such good friends, and everyone's really close in this team. We just kind of kept building a really good bond, and about halfway through fall camp, it's kind of hard to tell because you're playing yourselves, but I really did think I think we might have something special here. I mean, everyone just fought, compete. They gave it all they had, and no one, when we went to Kennesaw, we were obviously they were favored. I think they were like ranked 6th or 8th. We didn't care. I mean, we really didn't care. No one was, scared of them or anything like that. I think we just went out and competed, and we ended up having a good game and obviously winning. So, I really just I think in the summers when I really kind of figured out that we might have a special team.
You guys are rolling. You suffer an unfortunate injury at probably the worst possible time of the season. But listen, Samford kept it rolling. You guys win a very, very competitive overtime
Oh
game, and
yeah.
I mean, make a big playoff run. Before we get into your comeback against North Dakota State, what was mentally? Because I don't think mental health is a big thing. I don't think people realize what athletes go through when they're sidelined with injuries, especially going through a playoff run. For you, how did you stay positive, and what role did you step into for the team while you were trying to get healthy?
Absolutely. I mean, obviously, like you said, it's a tough situation because you're in you're in the best part of the year. Playoff football and win or go home is most fun, most fun part of the year. So it was difficult, but at the same time, the team success is bigger than me, obviously. And so, I mean, my job at that point is how can I help Q be the best player he can be? Because Q's a baller. So I mean, that was kind of what I stepped into, and I was going to try to be ready as much as go as much as I could. But I mean, yeah, I was just trying to encourage and help in any way that I could.
Coming into the North Dakota State game, there was a lot of rumors on whether you were going to start, Q was going to start, what the dynamic was going to be. What happened behind the scenes? Were you pushing to take those snaps in the first half, or at halftime was it just listen, this is win or go home. We got to try something.
Yeah, I mean, me and Coach met a bunch before, and what we didn't want to happen was because when I started against Southeastern Louisiana, you know, I I couldn't really. I mean, I had a broken wrist, right? So you're trying to throw as much as you can, and I ended up hitting my hand on a helmet on probably the third play of the game, and I pretty much lost feeling in my hand, in my kind of my wrist, arm area, and I didn't want to do that again against North Dakota State because it kind of put Q in a bad position. So, it started feeling better throughout the week, later on in the week, and so we were kind of playing it by ear, seeing how the game was going to go, and we ended up right before deciding to start Q. Um, and then we were just kind of talking throughout the half. And I was about to go in with about 6 minutes left in the second, but they ended up having like a really long drive. And then we made a decision at halftime. But still, at halftime, it's kind of hard because I was one hit away from losing feeling in my hand again. So, I mean, you know, it's kind of just if I get hit, then I'm done, was kind of the thing. So,
Yeah, that's
just
a really tough situation, especially in an environment like that where you have a North Dakota State team who had a really good defense this year, especially
right.
in the front seven, and in a place where they don't lose very much. I think they've only lost
Oh, yeah.
one game in the playoffs, maybe not ever there. So it was a really interesting situation. But we see in the FCS, history suggests teams that make runs get experience and they're more likely to make runs again. When you look at the team and yourself, what were the biggest learning experiences throughout the playoffs that you guys are going to really apply in 2023?
Yeah, I think I mean, to be quite honest with you, we didn't really have experience in that. Just the playoffs. We had a big win against Southeastern Louisiana, and that's just I mean, quite frank, that's you got to learn how to travel. You know what I'm saying? And you go up there, and then you just gotta. I think the biggest thing is just missed opportunities. You know what I mean? When you're playing a team that's that good, and we played a lot of teams good throughout the regular season, but you just can't miss opportunities. I would say, especially North Dakota State when they're going to try to control the ball. Our defense did a phenomenal job. They can only do that for so long, right? And I mean, we just had to put some points on the board. To be honest
Yeah,
with you,
I completely agree. I was really impressed with Sanford's defense. I think they took a lot of lumps, especially in terms of media coverage and stuff like that. The offense gets a lot of credit, and I think
oh
that comes
yeah,
from the Chris Hatcher. With the Chris Hatcher effect is
right.
real in Sanford. But I thought the defense did great. I mean, that defense was very underrated, especially the linebacking core. I don't think the linebackers
Oh yeah.
for you guys got enough credit at all. But to talk about your head coach, he was one of my favorite interviews I got to have at SoCon Media today. He's so honest, so personable, and I can only imagine. And I saw the locker room videos, man. where you guys would win any game, and he would come in the locker room, and his energy was infectious, and I can tell how fired up you guys were to see him. What is your relationship like with him, and how is he with the team? How is he able to connect and motivate and really and truly be the face of this program?
Man, Hatch is, I mean, like I said before, he's such a great coach, but he really is an even better person. He runs our quarterback room, so I see him. I'm with him half the day. He's just fun to be around. He's just a really funny guy. But like you said, he's got this just honesty about him, and just how he kind of says things and goes about his day is just it's just he's fun to be around. But yeah, I mean the post game locker room, like everyone just kind of looks forward to that because he gets it, and he gets that we're all college kids, and he wants us to have fun and truly enjoy, not only enjoy football, but he's also teaching us how to be better men and just, be better people. But he's awesome. I mean, that surprised me. That's your favorite interview.
Yeah, he just reminds me of like someone you would just want to go out and just like get a dinner with and just find out more
Oh
about
yeah.
him, man. I love Coach Hatcher, but we talked a little bit earlier about it, and you said that you weren't thinking about it during the season, and that's understandable because I know some guys don't like to look at the stats, but I don't think people understand coming from JUCO, your first season ever as a starting quarterback in college football at the FCS level, you set the FCS record for completion percentage. What do you credit that to? Is it film study? Was it your wide receivers? Like break it down for me. How does that even happen, man? Because I don't think people realize you threw the ball over 400 times and complete almost 80% of your passes. That's unheard of at any level of college football.
I mean, for me to throw a completion, the receivers obviously got to catch it, right? Which, I mean, you complete in, I think, was 76, 77%. That means they got to, and I miss some throws too. So my receivers are catching everything. And they just do a really good job at getting open too, not just catching the ball. It's just, I got a lot of confidence in them. And, it's such a whatever answer, but the line, our offensive line did a great job. The running back, we had great running backs that were good, not only good at running the ball, but great out of the backfield. And then, Coach Hatch he's so good at making my job as easy as possible. I mean, how he teaches our offense is just, he instills a lot of confidence in me that, I take through the game. So, I mean, yeah, credit to all of them, to be honest with you. They make my job a lot easier.
I really do think there was a time of the year where I have a coaching show with Coach Frederick from Alcorn State, and he was like, who's got the most underrated wide receiving core? Samford.
Oh,
He was
yeah.
like, I don't know how they get open like they do, but he was like, every time that quarterback goes back, there's somebody flying down the field,
Oh,
whether
yeah.
it doesn't matter. And then I think Jay had that one game where he went just ridiculous in terms of like catching on the backfield at one point too. So
Oh,
shout
yeah.
out to all those.
Jay and Jalen. I mean, they were
Mhm.
so good out of the backfield and they just kind of knew how to get open. And once they did, they'd make a guy miss. So they're really good in open field.
Turning the page to 2023, Michael, we know what it is. You guys last year preseason, I think you guys were voted seventh in the
Oh,
conference in the
yeah.
SoCon. Nobody was expecting it. Now coming into 2023, it's going to be you guys at the top of that preseason poll. You guys are going to have the target on your back. Everyone's going to say we got to build our team to beat Samford. Do you personally feel, and does the team feel in the locker room any pressure to repeat as conference champions?
I mean, I wouldn't say necessarily pressure, but I mean, I definitely think no one's satisfied. I would say that. I don't think anyone's like, oh, what we did last year. We've already kind of turned the page. After we had our banquet in January, everyone's like, 2022 is over. There's a new chapter in 2023. So let's go repeat it. And, we've had a great, like I said, we've had a great off season so far. And I mean, I do think, the target's on your back. So, you can get everyone's best shot. But at the end of the day, you just got to play ball, right? I mean, go out
Yeah.
and compete every game and, try to win one game at a time and see what happens.
I love that. You said at the end of the day, you still just got to go out there and it's 60 minutes of football. So I like that mindset. But for you, I know just based off your answers before, I know you're not a big personal achievement guy, but every player in the back of their mind has a goal for themselves or goals for themselves going into the next season. For you, going into your last year here at Sanford, what are your personal goals for the 2023 season?
I mean, personal, obviously, I mean, first I want to win a SoCon championship, right? Then, obviously, last year we got pretty close to get to the quarterfinals. I mean, like to take that next step and make it to the national championship, right? I mean, and then, those awards and all that, like, I would be lying to you if I said I didn't want to win the Walter Payton Award or, all the other awards. I'd be lying to you. But that's a product of one, everyone else's play, because I can't do that all by myself. And then, just like I said, going to play every day. So, I mean, I think if you focus on it, you're probably not going to be very successful. But if you just go in every day and try to do your job, I think it'll end up stacking up. So, we'll see what happens, right?
And just some more lighthearted questions here. I love asking quarterbacks about this. I get such a wide array of answers. If you had one route to throw, your favorite route to throw, if you could just go in the playbook and pick something, what's your favorite route to pull out of the playbook?
Man, I mean, I love throwing the deep ball, so we'll probably go with like a little post or something. There's nothing better than throwing a post perfect and seeing your receiver run under it and then score. So we'll probably go with a post.
Hey, even as a fan, because I played offensive line, so I never did anything like that. It's very satisfying to see a post route. That's got to be one of the most beautiful plays, especially executed right.
Oh yeah,
it's a it's
and there's
amazing.
nothing
But
more fun too than seeing all your linemen get excited too and
oh
celebrating with
yeah,
them. So I'm all in.
you got, as an offensive lineman, there's always a plan. Two of you have to stay back to celebrate with the quarterback, and then the other three got to get down there and get the wide receiver and
Oh
celebrate with
yeah,
him. So it's tough on us. We got to get that conditioning up, man. We're bigger, so if you hit like a 70-yarder, it's a little tough for us. But
a little adrenaline
everyone,
rush though, right?
oh yeah, absolutely. But everyone has a welcome to college moment, well, regardless if it's in practice, in a game. What was your welcome to college moment?
Man, so fortunately for me as a quarterback, I don't get hit in practice or something like that. So I'm trying to think of. God, that's a good question. I mean, I would just say to begin with, like, I came in during fall camp, so right before, and you just kind of look at your schedule and like you're like, this is not like high school. I got weights at 6 in the morning. I got a meeting right after that. Then we got practice. Then we got more meetings. You're like, good grief. High school, you just had practice and then you were done.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm trying to think. That's a good question. I have to think on. But I just specifically remember looking at my first fall camp schedule and be like, I was not ready for this.
Yeah, I guess that's good for quarterbacks too, because I've had some guys come on here and be like, my first game, I got thrown in a defensive end, and we're playing Virginia, and the dude across from me is a three-time All ACC selection. So, hey, if it's just a schedule, man, that's a
Oh yeah,
great welcome to college moment compared to some of the
right.
stuff we've heard on here. But NFL comparisons, it's so big. People love it. I always like hearing what players think of themselves.
Yeah,
Which NFL player do you feel like you model your game after the most?
and That's a pretty tough question. I mean, I would say my favorite quarterback to watch. Everyone says Patrick Mahomes. He's just so
Yeah.
unrelatable because some of the
Right.
stuff he can do is just unbelievable. But I love Joe Burrow. I love watching just his stuff and kind of I like how he plays. I like his awareness. I like how he carries himself and his just competitiveness. How he deals with his teammates. So I mean, I would say if I were to try to model myself after someone, it'd be Burrow.
I actually really like that comparison because I think there's times like because he's very, he has his moments where he gets fired up, but he's very level headed and the
Right.
command of the offense. And in the pocket, he looks so relaxed. And I can see that with you. Like, I feel like if you pull some screenshots of like, I think Samford has some of you in the pocket, you're just like chilling. Like, don't even like you're panicking at
Yeah.
all. So I can see that. And then pregame routine for me, man, I'll be honest. I say this every show. I was so superstitious. I had a playlist. It had to be played in a certain order, a certain time. For you, how do you get ready for games on Saturday?
I'm right there with you. I got a couple songs that I try to play a little bit in order. It changes every year, but once you do the first game, if it works, you kind of stay with it. But I'm pretty calm before a game. I really don't get too riled up. I just try to stay pretty level headed. But I mean, just try to get a good night's sleep, even though sometimes you don't do that before a game. And then just listen to some music and try to look over my plays, and then I'm ready to go.
I like it. Keep it simple. And I know quarterbacks have a lot more to do. As an offensive lineman, we have a lot more time for trash talk, and we're going one-on-one with the same guy for 60 plays, and it gets a little heated in the trenches. But for you, we've seen some quarterbacks, Tom Brady, get a little heated at times. Do you talk a lot of trash during the game? Do you respond to anything, or are you just like, listen, don't worry about it. I'm gonna hit this post route, and we're gonna keep it moving?
I get into it a little bit. I'm pretty competitive, so I try not to talk too much. But there are definitely some times where I get a little heated and a little competitive and start talking a little bit. But for the most part, I try to keep it pretty composed. But it fires my O line up sometimes, so we got to let it out
Oh yeah, as an offensive
here and
lineman, you
there.
got to defend the quarterback. If you hear him chirping, you're involved in the situation now. So, but you get to snitch on your teammates a little bit. I love this segment of the show. The biggest trash talker on Samford's football team right now.
So offensively, the whole line talks, and it's so
Yeah,
funny. But someone who sticks out for me is Luke Byrne, number 54. He's a guard. He talks a pretty good bit. So it's funny when he starts chirping with the D line and linebackers.
yeah.
And
As a quarterback,
Kendall
you got.
Watson also, K
Oh yeah.
Watt, number 84. He talked a good bit too. So he'd start talking to the other sideline when he got the chance. So
Mm. That's when you know they're good trash talkers. If they're talking to the coaches and the players on the
oh
sideline, you know your trash talk has to be at an all-time high. But
yeah.
man, looking at your competition this year, who was the best defensive player you faced this season? That when you look back, even if you had a great game, you were like, okay, he gave me headaches, and I really had to bring it against him.
Does Jalen Carter count?
Oh yeah, you could. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a listen. That is, I forgot you guys played Georgia there for a second. Yeah, that is a very valid
Yeah.
answer.
Uh, Obviously him. And then you got the Nolan Smith. I mean, those guys they're so good. Like
Yeah.
they're ridiculous. I mean, there's nothing much you can say about them. Man, I'm trying to think of individual players. I mean, there were so many good players that, defensive players, especially against. I'm trying to think of some deep. Furman had some really good
Yeah.
defensive players. Mercer and Chat. Golly, what's his name? Chat. He's
You know his number?
what's up? I'm going blank. I know Chat number 7 for Chat was good. He ended up getting hurt against him, but it was a D lineman. I'm trying to think of what number he
Oh,
was.
Maxwell 90.
Yeah, him.
Yeah.
He was good. I mean, that whole D line was very good. The first series, you were kind of like, okay, yeah, they're bringing it. So we got to have our A game. But our O line did a great job. But I would probably say them. But like I
Yeah.
said, there are so many good players that, and we go so fast at half the time that I'm not even paying attention to them. So
Just on the ball, on the ball.
yeah,
Don't even worry about who's coming in. Now, I think that's fair because they had Jay Pearson, number 30, who was a Buck
yeah,
Buchanan Award. This Devont Shays, a three-time All-American. They had Todd Beckett, linebacker,
yes.
46, as well. And I think you're talking about Cam.
I might
He
have been
was an
talking.
All-American.
The Pearson guy was very good. Though. I mean, they're all so you know what I mean, and
Oh
they
yeah.
were all very good. So
And looking at your game, you're coming into your final season. You're going to be in a preseason FCS All American, and looking at the draft class, you're probably going to be the top FCS quarterback coming out in the next draft. Do you have any feedback that you've gotten so far on things you need to work on, or things that teams want to see from you going into 2023?
yeah, man. I mean, I really haven't gotten much feedback from that level about it. Me and Coach Hatcher talk all the time, just some stuff here and there. But I mean, I just think, obviously consistency. I try to get my arm as strong as possible, try to get faster, quicker, just better pocket awareness, just all the little things, try to tune them up. But there hadn't been, I mean, obviously there's so much to work on, but there's not necessarily one huge thing. You just try to tune up everything and be as good as I can possibly be.
And the final question, and this one, I know I've had some people reach out and say this is one of their favorite questions, and it's just if an NFL franchise asks you what they're going to get in Michael Hiers if they take you in the 2024 NFL draft, what do you tell them?
I mean, I'd say they're going to get a competitor and a winner. I mean, I'm about as competitive as it gets. And, I try to win as much as I can, and I've been pretty successful at that so far. So I mean that would be my answer right now. Is I'm going to do anything I can to help our team win.
Man, Michael, listen. These questions are scheduled for like 15 minutes. Man, we talked for 25, and it felt like 5 minutes. So I
Yeah.
appreciate you for giving me a little bit of your time in the middle of spring practice. I know it's going to be a big year for Samford, but it's all about player promotion, man. Let people know where they can follow you on social media, contact you for NIL deals, and any messages, things you want to say to all the people. Man, this time is yours.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I mean, my Instagram is Michael.Hiers, Hiers. Twitter is Michael Hiers 107. And then for NIL stuff, I've been using MC Hires 107 at gmail.com. That's been the one I've been using recently. So, I mean, yeah. I mean, man, I appreciate you having me on the show. It was a blast. Like you said, it felt like we were talking for about 5 minutes. So, had a really good
It,
time.
it definitely did, and we're definitely going to have to get you on during the season, after the season, leading
Absolutely.
up to the NFL draft, and I'm definitely hoping to see you at the Walter Payton ceremony at the end of the year as well. I'm expecting a big year out of you and Samford. But guys, make sure to go follow Michael on all social media. We got to get all these FCS players' social medias, their brands as high as they can get before they get to the NFL draft. But for Michael Hiers, for myself, and for the Blue Bloods guys, we are out for right now.